Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is the Board of County Commissioners' regular meeting on December 16th, 2020. I'm Steve Child, Chairman, here in the meeting room with Commissioner Patty Clapper and other commissioners, Kelly McNicholas Curry, George Newman, and, oh, there's Greg Postman, all at home on their Zoom calls. Sometimes it's hard to see people on the screen. So, welcome everybody. I see that there are 3 people for the Aspen Solar Project here on the call, and your item is going to be item number 8 actually, so you can kind of chill for a while. It'll take us a while to get there. John Peacock is in other meetings right now, and Rich Engelhardt is filling in for him. And Rich, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Commissioners, Rich Engelhardt, Deputy County Manager. We do have one addition, and it's an ordinance dealing with Cougar Canyon. And I believe our attorney, John Ely, is on and could describe that in a little more detail for the board.
You want a description now, Steve, or you want to just add it to the agenda?
Well, let's just add it to the agenda as item number 2A, I believe, we would number it. So the description of it is, it's an ordinance authorizing the chair to execute the documents to convey the Cougar Canyon parcel to a private party.
That's correct.
And we would need a motion to add it in as item 2A on the agenda.
I have a question though. Is it a 1-read or a 2-read, John?
This was a 2-read ordinance. Today is the proposed first reading. The second reading, if it is accepted by the board, will be the next regular meeting of the BOCC, which is January 13th.
Or December, well, it has to be, couldn't be the next week on the 22nd?
No, it needs to be,
noticed properly and
noted.
everything. Okay.
And that time frame is okay? We didn't need to do it on an emergency ordinance?
That's correct, Patty. The time frame is acceptable to both us and the potential buyer.
Okay, thank you. So I'll make a motion to add it to the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Patty, seconded by Kelly to add that as item 2A to the agenda, and that would be for the first reading with a second reading and public hearing set for the first regular meeting in January. Okay, are there any public comments? And I'm looking on my screen. Let's see, 8797, I believe that would be Lee Mulcahy. Lee, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, Lee, for comments.
Yes, sir. All the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle, and that was Francis of Assisi. In moments of struggle when hope is hard to find, our practices can help us remember that there is a light in the world, a light that darkness could not overpower, John 1:5. Hopelessness is real, but it need not define our faith, trust, and hope in the one who is to come. I'm very grateful for many things, especially in the season of hope and peace, for God, for our beautiful town and community, for the birthday of our Savior Jesus, and for the most amazing mom any son or daughter could ever hope for. What an amazing life story, not unlike my dad's. And you guys should watch the interview with her on Grassroots TV. Grateful last night I collected over 25 signatures for a run for the mayor of Aspen. Not that I wanted to do this, but, our point is Aspen is becoming Moscow in the mountains. And the vice chair has asked me not to stop by, but only to call or email. However, she returns neither. And I would just like to ask her in the spirit of peace and joy, would she sign my petition to run for mayor?
I don't think that she would need to answer that right now, Lee.
Yes, or maybe she could email or call me. You know, we live a block away from each other. And she just thinks she's sometimes Queen Elizabeth on steroids. She also stated that justice favors APSHA. And I would state that this whole case rests on a prematurely issued notice of violation. And if she wants to send troops to her neighbor's house to invade us instead of refusing to rent the house we built where my dad had a stroke, I just think that is not, that is the wrong path. It's a wrong path led by a former United Nations, worked for the United Nations. She's from New York City. And unfortunately, I was an artist and I lived there. Like Paris, it dehumanizes people. Society is moved forward by acts of peace. Peacemaking is the essence of service. And what is service but love, which was the message of Jesus in this holiday season. There's a headline in the paper, looming wave of evictions, housing instability likely to take toll on health. I'm sad because James Hoagie, who you honored with a Pitkin County Service Award several months ago, stated that our neighbor, the vice chair, is putting my mom, the city of Aspen is putting my mom, an 85-year-old widow, known to everyone as Mama Sandy, in an early grave. And I just don't understand why after the new year, three of you guys, you know, you're all Democrats, three of you guys, and Steve, you know that a teacher is someone who believes in peace and who believes in love, you know, that's coming on board as Mr. Newman is leaving. And just let us, a family of Republicans, rent the house we built, or at least direct Kelly to do that, since I think that she would favor sending troops in. And my mom asked the sheriff recently how his police were going to drag her out in, quote, a dignified, nonviolent way.
So, Lee, your time is up, Lee. And Lee,
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Just for the record, it is not our vice chair who is doing those things. It is, you know, the entire APSHA board and the city of Aspen and the attorney for APSHA are the ones involved. So anyhow, we heard your message. Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public wishing to call? There's no one on the line right now. So I think I will close public comments and go to the commissioner comments. Patty?
Yeah, I just want to remember Dave Stapleton Sr., who passed away just a week or so ago after an injury and then contracting COVID in his rehabilitation facility in Grand Junction. He was an amazing man. I've known him for 40 years. Wonderful sense of humor, kind, really believed in public service and giving back to just giving to this community. He was just a character, as was his wife Sigrid, who I worked with for many years at the hospital. So it's another tragic loss to this community. And I think I want to let the Stapleton family, all of the Stapleton family members, know that they're in our thoughts and in our prayers at this time. And on a brighter note, I want to wish this community a very happy holiday season. Be safe, stay well, and please be careful. It's really slippery outside. And we've been blessed with this great snowfall, so hopefully people will be able to take advantage of that. So again, happy holidays.
Thank you, Patty. Other commissioner comments? Kelly?
Thank you. Since I think this is probably our last opportunity in 2020, I just want to, reflect a little and look back, because this has been a really difficult year. Obviously the COVID pandemic has really altered people's lives. It's caused
Hard to hear.
so much.
Kelly, it's hard to hear you.
Is there any way we can turn this up?
I'll lean in more. So hopefully you can hear me better. But, I just want to look back and just honor everybody's perseverance and tenacity. In this last year, it's been really difficult. The pandemic has shown and taught us all so much about how to care for each other and, you know, how to be resilient. And, you know, we had a horrible wildfire season that just added to that anxiety. I hope now as we add into, you know, we go into the winter, we see huge snowfalls to set us up for a 2021 that is just healthier and more peaceful for us, for our environment, for our community, because it's been tough to hang in there, you know, and I know that there are still individuals and families out there that are struggling. There are people who are sick, and I'm keeping you all in my thoughts. And, you know, I hope that as a board, we continue to serve you and to hear you and take care of you and try, you know, to represent the best of what's in each of us and through this holiday season. And I'll just continue to practice my gratitude for this board, for our staff, for our community, and, you know, all of the effort people are putting forward in these trying times. And I hope you all stay safe and can really celebrate with your families over these holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Other commissioner comments? I have two different comments, well, two or three. One, on Monday, Holy Cross Energy made a really amazing announcement. The board of directors of Holy Cross Energy has set a new goal for renewable energy for Holy Cross of 100% renewable electricity by the year 2030. They had been at a 70% goal, and they have raised that up to a 100% goal. So that's just 10 years from now. I think that's very bold and you know, amazing for them to do that, and I remain confident that they will achieve that goal. Couple of other things. The Aspen Choral Society will be doing our virtual production of The Messiah, and it's going to be released on December 23rd. I don't know what time it will be widely publicized. Anybody will be able to go on and watch the performance. It's work of well over 100 people, I think, will be performing, all having done their parts individually, and all those will be pieced together on one screen for the performance of the Messiah this year. Also, I'd like to wish everybody a safe holiday season this year. It's very important to try to stay healthy, and the best way to do that, there's a couple things. One would be to get your flu shot if you haven't already gotten a flu shot. The second would be to watch, you know, pay attention to the rules for avoiding getting the COVID virus by wearing your mask at all times when you're out in the public or with other people besides your household, to maintain a 6-foot social distance, to wash your hands very carefully and frequently, to not go out if you are feeling sick, to go get tested if you are feeling sick. All those things are important. So I hope everybody can stay healthy, your families can stay healthy, and everyone has a wonderful holiday season. So thank you. Any other commissioner comments right now? Okay, moving on to our consent items.
Wait, Steve, can I?
Yeah, Patty.
I believe that this is Commissioner Newman's last regular scheduled BOCC meeting. So I just want to thank George for his 12 years of service, for all the work that he has done for this community, for the shots of his turkeys during this time of COVID Zoom meetings from home. I found them most entertaining. We're going to miss you, George. We wish you well. And because you've been Zooming in, we do know where to find you. So have a great holiday. We do have a few more meetings with George, but this is his last regular meeting. So I wanted to thank him.
Yeah, and we do have one more special meeting next week,
and then,
but it's not one where we're going to be making announcements.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. You know,
Wipe that smile off your face, George.
George has
Well,
actually.
thank you.
I think George has enjoyed the pandemic because he's been able to stay at home for almost all of the meetings and just have them be virtual meetings. So he has saved a lot of travel time going back and forth to Aspen.
Yeah, but there's always that silk lining in a sow's ear, as they say.
Okay. Well, thank you, George. And, you know, I've been on the board 8 years. George has been on 12 years now. So my entire time, George has been a fellow commissioner. And it's going to be a different board next year without having George there. It'll be a new experience for me, certainly, to have, you know, a different mix of commissioners. So thank you, George, for your diligence over all of this time.
Thank you. I have to say, Patty, you'll appreciate this. I think it was in Daily News today. There was a part of our discussion yesterday with COVID and addressing your suggestion in terms of expanding the curfew. And the reporter said something, and Newman had a frown on his face when he's watching my.
I know.
Watching my gestures.
I hate to tell you, George, if anything, that is the one thing I'm going to miss about you most, is being able to watch your expressions. In times of the good times, the low times, the bad times, the hard times, the easy times, you always had the perfect expression that always made me, and sometimes giggle out loud, but I'm going to miss that. But every time I make a remark like that, I'm going to think of you. So if people find me giggling, it's because of that, George.
Okay, moving on to our consent items, single reading. First is the minutes of November 18th and December 2nd. The second item is approval of the 2021 ambulance licenses. Does anyone want to pull either one of those items? And if not, we
Hi,
can.
Steve. This is Julia Ely with administration. I'm filling in for Phyllis Mattice regarding the annual approval of the ambulance licenses and permits. I just wanted to put a quick note out there. As usual, the licenses and permits for the vehicles are going to go into effect on January 1, 2021, and let all of you know that Richard Cornelius, the EMTAC chair, is here to answer any questions that you guys have. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
Okay, so I do see that Richard Cornelius is here. So let's just deal with the minutes right now, and then we'll discuss the ambulance licenses.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, moved by Patty, seconded by Greg to approve the minutes of November 18th and December 2nd. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, then the approval of the 2021 ambulance licenses. And does anyone have any questions on this or comments?
I just have a question.
Patty?
Richard, has anything changed from last year on any of these licenses? It looks to me that it's pretty much the standard.
Hey, good afternoon, Commissioners. Yeah, the one change for 2021 is Event Medical Solutions Unlimited. In 2020, that was the first year that you guys granted them a license in vehicle permits. The vehicle permits only covered 2 vehicles. This year, they've added an additional 2 ambulances, so the request would be for 4 vehicle permits. The same restrictions are still in existence for Event Medical Solutions Unlimited. Otherwise, no changes.
Great, thank you.
So, Richard, I'm always amazed when I'm around one of the ambulances and realize how much equipment they have in there and all the different life-saving things that the EMTs can do because they have such amazing ambulances. I think they've come a long ways over the years to become bigger and with more things in there. Therefore, they are able to take care of people who are injured or sick a whole lot better.
Yeah, we're certainly very fortunate to be able to purchase the ambulances, obviously through the support of the community, additionally with some grant funding that is available with different processes throughout the state. So yeah, we're very fortunate. Thank you.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the 2021 ambulance licenses.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Okay, moved by Patty, seconded by Greg to approve, and third by Greg's sidekick there.
The tail.
Is there any further discussion?
I just want to thank Julia and Richard for being on board here today to answer questions.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to see a friendly face, even though we don't get to see them in person. Okay, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Have a great year.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Be safe.
Okay, now we are moving to our item that we added. It's an ordinance of the board authorizing the chair to execute the necessary documents to convey Pickens County's Cougar Canyon out parcel to Kevin and Elizabeth Keating. And John Ely, let me turn it over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Commissioners, what this item is the first reading on an ordinance that is required for the board to convey this parcel in sales transaction to the proposed buyers, the Keatings. The action is taken pursuant to the Home Rule Charter requirement for all items regarding interest in real property. So to Patty's earlier question, we were considering doing this as an emergency ordinance in order to facilitate a quicker transaction of the property, but the ordinary course and pace of the execution of an ordinance is more suiting to the potential buyers because they are examining the property and going through matters of due diligence now, and the additional 2 weeks will help them out a little bit. So the property involved is located out on Juniper Hill Road. If I can share the screen, I can put up a map. I'm not sure who's doing that, if Andrew's on the...
Yeah, go ahead, John. Should be able to share.
You guys have that? So the property is here. It's nominated as owned by Pickens County. It is on Juniper Hill Road, which Juniper Hill Road takes off across the highway from Smith Hill Road and goes past the Cozy Point holdings of the city of Aspen. In fact, the property is really across the road from the city of Aspen's Cozy Point barn. That's the easiest way to think of it. It's a 40-acre parcel that was conveyed to the county in the late 1990s as an exaction for an employee housing requirement when the property adjoining this property was subdivided by a developer at that time. The property was held by the county for a number of years. The county was going back and forth on the issue of whether to develop it and put affordable housing in that location or whether to sell the property and use the proceeds of the sale for the county's affordable housing program in a different location. The county eventually decided to transact the property. Has been listed for a bit of time, but with the real estate market being what it has been for the last, the last year or so, since about February, the activity in property and sales transactions across the board in Pickens County has been rather dramatically on the uptick. So the property was listed and is listed for $850,000. The offer for purchase from the Keatings is for $880,000. The property situated here has been previously approved with a building envelope and activity envelope by the county, which is located approximately in this location of the property. The offer for sale does not contain any financing conditions or contingencies, and the transaction is anticipated to be closed within 35 days of the execution of the contract after second reading of this ordinance. If acceptable to the board, we will schedule a public hearing and a second reading on the ordinance on January 13th and proceed forward on the contract and offer and hopefully bring the matter to conclusion for both the benefit of the buyers and ourselves.
Okay, questions from the board?
John, could you show us the activity envelope? Sorry, Steve.
I was trying to pull up a survey, Greg, but I couldn't get it on my computer for some weird reason. But the envelope, the activity envelope and the building envelope is in this area of the property, the southernmost jog of the property, if you will.
George?
Yeah, so John, since this was given to the county as part of a housing mitigation, the sales of the property, the funds for this property will then need to be utilized for some sort of housing, county housing project?
That's correct, George. The proceeds of the sale will go right into the housing fund that the county maintains, and it's the same fund where the housing impact fee that is collected by the county is maintained. It is, in fact, a housing impact dedication. It simply came to the county as real estate instead of cash.
Yeah, and it's one of the advantages, I think, in terms of not only putting this property up for sale, but actually being able to sell it is we could utilize these funds immediately in terms of all the improvements that will be needed since we purchased the Phillips Trailer Court a couple of years ago. So this will definitely help move that project forward and make that a much more pleasant, livable place for the current residents and perhaps some future residents.
Greg?
Chris, if you could remind me, we've talked about this off and on for a while. Is there a conservation easement on the property, and can you just describe what can be done with this property? I know we've got the activity envelope building site. What can happen on the rest of the 40 acres?
The rest of the 40 acres, the balance of the property, essentially this area, is not encumbered by a conservation easement or other restrictions against development. It was contemplated that a conservation easement would be put on the property, but one was never recorded against the property. Once the property is transacted, it's available for use consistent with the underlying zoning and any required approvals that must be obtained from the county. Quite frankly, it's been a number of years now since the county put this building envelope site and activity envelope on the property and recorded it on the property. It was done well to make the transaction easier. It's a little difficult for the county, being the owner and acting as a proprietor of property, and at the same time being the chief regulator and determiner of land use applications within the county. So to avoid any issues of negotiations in the transaction, well, if you give me X number of square feet or so many units or something like that, the county simply put an acceptable development approval on the property, which is evidenced by this activity envelope and building envelope site. If the potential buyers want to move that around or do something else on the property, or if they transact it someday and some successive owner down the line wants to do something on the property, we simply have to go through the normal regulatory and approval steps in the Pickens County Land Use Code.
So I wanted to point out for the public's benefit, we have discussed this property for a long time, and we considered even the possibility of the county building affordable housing on the site. It really wasn't a good property, a good location for putting affordable housing. it's more suited for a single-family house. And consequently, we decided the best thing to do was to sell it and put the money into other projects for affordable housing in more suitable locations. So we've looked at this property a lot and discussed lots of ways to try to sell it, and we're glad that we have a family wishing to buy it now, and so let's see, any more questions from the board or comments? We would need a motion to approve it on first reading. Kelly?
Yeah, I just wonder if John has a draft resolution he wanted to put up at all.
To share, you mean, to,
Yeah,
it's a draft ordinance, Kelly.
ordinance, thank you, sorry. Okay, that will help. I'll make a motion and this will help me read what it should be.
Oh.
Okay. I will move to approve an emergency ordinance on first reading of the Board of County Commissioners authorizing the chair to execute the necessary documents to convey Pickens County's Cougar Canyon outparcel to Kevin and Elizabeth Keating. And we are setting this for second reading for which date?
January 13th.
Thank you, January 13th.
Yeah, I'll make a
I'll
correction.
second that.
It's not an emergency reso, it's just a reso,
An ordinance.
ordinance.
Is that correct, John?
Thank you.
Not an emergency, just a regular ordinance.
I'll amend my motion to move on first reading this ordinance.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, moved by Kelly, seconded by Greg to approve this ordinance on first reading. Are there any further comments from the board?
I have a comment.
Patty?
You know, I've been involved with this property probably longer than anybody who sits on this board, and I actually supported it for affordable housing. That's when Mick Ireland was on the board, and he felt it wasn't close enough to mass transit. So the board opted to not go in that direction. I still feel that it would have been appropriate. I understand the need for money into our housing fund so that we can appropriately put it into other projects. Probably the first one would be Phillips Trailer Court, that parcel. I have been holding out for a higher sale price. We've gotten a little closer to that. So as a parting gift for Mr. Newman, I'm going to support the sale of this property as it moves forward.
Where's the gift? Do I get some of the commission on that?
You get that cake from Kelly on the 22nd or whenever she's baking it for you.
Okay, if there are no further comments, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Merry Christmas, George.
Okay, moving to item number 3. These are individual consideration items, second readings. These are all public hearings. So I think we have a whole bunch of items in a row that are public hearings. If anyone in the public wishes to speak at any of these items, you should be getting ready to phone into the phone number, which is at the top of our agenda, and I think also on the grassroots screen. So the first item is a resolution to approve the fourth quarter budget supplemental requests. And Connie Baker is here from the staff to tell us about this.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. The fourth quarter budget supplemental request, there are 13 requests, and they will increase the county's 2020 budgeted expenditures by $11,531,795. That is offset by an increase in budgeted revenues of $36,954,730. This is a net decrease in the 2020 budget of $25,422,935. Staff were present on December 1st to go through all of these requests with the board and answer questions. So hopefully that's still fairly fresh in your memories. The dollar amounts of these supplemental requests are large when put all together, but a majority of the amount is because of the bonds that were issued for open space and trails, and also the refunding of our sales tax debt. And then also for the COVID relief funds, the CARES Act, which we recently received. I will go through briefly the different requests just to mention them for the public, and then see if you have any questions on them. So there are a number of grants included in these requests. The first one is an economic development grant from Northwest COG, and that's for $30,000. In the Healthy Rivers and Streams Fund, the Robinson Diversion Project, which has already begun, for $426,000. In the Public Health Fund, a Protect Our Neighbor grant in the amount of $200,000. And then a couple of grants in the Human Services Fund, an Access and Functional Needs grant for $30,000. And this is actually a donation that's being given to the county from the Aspen Community Foundation. The Supplemental Nutrition Program, sometimes called food stamps, has had a very large increase in usage in 2020. We are increasing that budget by $425,000, fully funded by federal money, so no net increase to the county. There is also an ESG CV2 grant for human services, and this is for homelessness and rapid rehousing. And this is in the amount of $500,000 for the grant, plus an additional contribution of $60,000 from the Colorado Health Foundation. There's a supplemental request for Redstone Ranch for road grading. There's a request in the Ambulance District Fund for an increase in the payment to Aspen Valley Hospital for the net cost of ambulance services in 2020. There's a request in the Housing Fund for the purchase of a deed-restricted unit and a transfer from the general fund, and then that will reverse in 2021 with the general fund being paid back as the unit is sold. And then for the CARES Act funding, there's an increase in both revenue and expenditures in the general fund and the ambulance district. Debt service, as I mentioned, we issued $20 million in open space and trails bonds, and then we refunded our sales tax revenue bonds, both with very good interest rates. There are a few cost adjustments to our overhead costs, so we adjusted the budget of 4 different funds. And then last is the public safety radio budget and an increase in the cost of the Rudeye digitally trunked radio system and a transfer from the general fund to help cover those capital costs. Are there any questions on all of these?
Not seeing any questions, Connie. So this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this item regarding the fourth quarter budget supplemental requests? And I'm going to assume that the one caller on there is Evan Marks, is here to speak to the airport issue later on. But Evan, you could, if you did want to comment on any of these others, you could at the appropriate time.
Well, thank you, Steve. No, I'm just doing work here in my office and waiting for the final reading on the ARC project.
Okay, thank you, Evan.
Sure.
So not seeing anyone calling in on this item, bring it back to the board.
Steve, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by George, seconded by Kelly for approval. Are there any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. Appreciate your
Thank
good
you.
work all the time. You're very professional at what you do. Next up, we have an ordinance approving a lease agreement between the board and FB and F LLC doing business as Stubby's Sports Bar for space located at River Park Center, 123 Emma Road, Basalt. And Jody Smith, welcome to our meeting virtually. Could you tell us about this lease?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. Yes, this is to enter a new lease at River Park Center, 123 Emma Road, and Stubby Sports Bar. They have been leasing space since 1997. They've been a very good tenant in the past. We're looking at a 3-year lease with them. And I think the biggest change in this lease this year is due to the economic challenges of the past year, and as we're moving forward into the next, or into 2021, Stubby's had asked for a reduction in their rent, and in first reading, and the board, so it was. We used to pay $22.50 a square foot. We've this proposal is to move it down to $18 a square foot, which is a $19,577 reduction in the rent for the first year, and then the subsequent years from there, they would then go to a 3% or CPI, whichever is greater in their rent increase. Again, it's a 3-year term lease, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So don't see any questions, Jody. We had a good discussion on this at our first reading, and we also were able to speak with the owners and operators of Stubby's Bar at that meeting. Take it back to the board for discussion and a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I can second.
Okay, moved by Patty, seconded by Greg to approve. Is there further discussion? I'd like to point out that the county has urged other landlords to give some rent relief to their tenants during the time of the pandemic when businesses are really struggling just to keep out of bankruptcy, to stay open or to stay solvent enough that they can reopen at some time. And so I think it's really good that the county is following that same guideline. We're helping out. We don't have very many tenants. We have a couple of tenants who pay rent to us, and if we can help keep them in business and on our location, that's a good thing. Jody?
Yes, Steve, I will tell you that the night before first reading, I did, and before this was even out, Subway has made a request as well, so I will be bringing that to the board soon. It's a much less impact financially, but just as a heads up, there's a small request coming from Subway.
Okay, thank you, Jody, for the heads up on that. I was wondering about them when I was thinking of our other tenants, the main one being the Subway in the same building. Okay, let's see, we have a motion and a second, and is there any further discussion on this item? Oh, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment about the lease agreement between the county and Stubby's Sports Bar in Basalt? We'll give up half a minute to see if anyone new phones in on this item. Okay, seeing no one calling in, I'll close the public hearing on this. Bring it back to the board for any further comments. Seeing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, and good luck to Stubby's. I hope they survive this pandemic situation. Next up, item number 5 is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for the provision of child support services for the citizens of Pitkin County by Garfield County. And we have Samuel Lander-Casper on the line to tell us about this. Samuel?
Hi there, good afternoon. Yep, this is Sam Lander-Casper. I manage the Economic Assistance Department for Pitkin County. We're asking the board to approve, after the second reading and public comment, this IGA between Pitkin and Garfield County for child support services. Pitkin County is contracted with Garfield County to provide these services for quite some time. Financially, it makes the most sense because Pitkin County does not have a child support department, and Garfield County has an exceptional office that's been doing great work for us for years. The maximum value of this contract is $15,000. And I'd just like to highlight the great work that Garfield County does. They have established cases that bring in approximately $65,000 a month to Pitkin County families. And we were just notified that their work has won Pitkin County the Small Outstanding County Award statewide for child support services. So we just really want to make it clear that we appreciate the work they've done for us, and we'd like to continue with this great relationship that we have. I'd just like to indicate that I did revise the AIS to reflect the maximum value of $15,000 for the contract. And the ongoing IGA does allow for the Human Services Director to sign in upcoming years with approval from the county manager as well as the county attorney.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Questions from the board?
I just would like to make a comment.
Hattie?
Sam, thanks for making that comment about Garfield County. I think it's really imperative that when you live in rural Colorado, it's a great opportunity to work together as neighbors, as a valley, as we do. And we too appreciate the efforts put forth by Garfield County to help us out with this. And it's worked well, and I see it working well in the future. So thanks for that. Thank you to Garfield County, and I think I can speak for the Board of Commissioners to echo that. So we really appreciate it.
Greg?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Patty. Thanks, Sam. I wanted to reflect what Patty said. I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Did you say that Pitkin County received an award on this? And should that award be going to Garfield County is my question.
So because of the arrangement, yes, Garfield County will accept the award. We'll get a copy of it. I think it's a virtual certificate. Technically, Pitkin County won the, Small Outstanding County Award, but since Garfield County does all the work on that end, I think we can say that Garfield won the award.
I think we can kindly accept it on behalf of Garfield County.
Well,
Perfect.
Garfield County is bigger than we
Yeah.
are, so maybe they're not considered a small county. But they are not one of the 10 large counties in Colorado. so-
Thanks for clarifying that, Greg.
Their help is appreciated, as is the help of Eagle County on other things that we cooperate with them on. Okay, bring it back to the, well, let's see, this is a public hearing. Let's go to the public hearing first. Does any member of the public wish to comment about this IGA for the provision of child support services for the citizens of Pickens County by Garfield County? And we have a number on here, ending in 1484. Which item are you here to talk about or to listen to? Do you wish to speak on this item? Okay, not getting a response from them. And there's a Nathan listed. Is that Nathan Hewitt from Primergy on the phone, on a phone line also? Or is this a different Nathan?
That's correct. I'm on later on for the
Okay.
Pickens County solar projects.
Okay. So we won't call on you again, Nathan. Just a little note that you're on the list of attendees on the phone. Okay, seeing no one phoning in to comment on this, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Patty, seconded by Kelly for approval. Is there any further comment? I'd like to thank Sam Landercasper for the work he does on this, and you always do good presentations, Sam. Appreciate the work you do for the citizens of Pickens County.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for your time. And I just want to say thanks to George. It's been great working with you, so I'm glad I could be on this last meeting. So thanks a lot for all your service.
Thank you, Sam.
Okay, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous approval on that. Thanks, Sam. Going to item number 6, it's a resolution approving with amendments and additions the ASC Vision Committee recommendations and Common Ground recommendations Aspen Airport map for the Aspen-Pickens County Airport. And we have Rich Engelhardt on, and also G.R. Fielding has been helping out a lot on this. So Rich, I'll turn it over to you.
Good, thank you, Chair. I also noticed that John's tile is on, and I don't know if he has now made it back or not, but it's kind of ironic because I remember when the vote was taking place with the Visioning Committee, and I think John has mentioned this to you in the past, that he had to step out for the conclusion of that. So we're here to bring to you the second reading today, and as you may recall, on December 2nd, the board was presented with a resolution. After taking public comment, you all voted 5-0 to approve Resolution 105-2020 on first reading and setting a public hearing for today. So today's action really calls for a public hearing to consider final public input and staff's recommendation to adopt Resolution 105-2020 on second reading. I might say that after the last meeting, we did go down through each item. You had mentioned earlier, Chair, that GR was on the line. He was capturing all those changes. I believe now that we've got all those made, we did go in and correct some of the typos. So I think what you have in your packet now, we're confident is a final version, at least up till today. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm going to turn it over to you to go ahead and begin discussion and take public comment.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for Rich or GR about this? It's not like it's the first time we've seen it, Rich. We've spent a lot of time working on this. The product, which is our final product to date, is what we see before us today. It has had lots of changes made to it and lots of discussion about every item on it. So, Greg.
All right, thanks, Steve. So, Rich, I would just love to, now that this has been put into a form which is really, I think, easy to comprehend and succinct and well done. Thank you, GR, for your work, and Rich and the entire team for this. I guess I'd love to hear from you your take on how this affects the timeline, because certainly we've added some changes and some open-ended sort of what would they call it, conditions to this, and I'd be interested in hearing your take on it regarding the timeline for moving forward on this.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Well, I guess that's yet to be determined. This is the initial step to allow us to start those discussions with the FAA and the airlines that has all these conditions in them. So we do know that some of the conditions are going to be a challenge, but that's where we start our negotiation points from. So, Greg, we've laid out kind of a time frame from a construction standpoint that it's going to take a number of years to complete this. I think our original recommendation was that we're looking at trying to do the landside terminal improvements, work our way up, and which would be the last improvement would be the runway itself. And that's the direction that we're going to take from the board, and that's how we will begin our discussions with the FAA. So, and that was set as anywhere from a 10 to 12-year time frame, Greg, to work through all this. So I guess it's yet to be determined.
Great, thanks, Rich. I appreciate that. And the reason I'm asking is because we are seeing a lot of news articles and we're hearing a lot of comment about how the airline industry is changing. There's discussion of hydrogen aircraft. There's discussion of electric aircraft where some people are anticipating, including some of our commenters, that the fleet mix will change to where there may be a lot more smaller electric vehicles doing short runs, for instance. And so it just seems that, we're hopefully able to pivot and be nimble because, one, we have this extended time frame so that if something comes along like that, I'm feeling confident that we're in a position to modify as necessary. I don't know if that was a question or a comment, but that's what's been going through my head. Thanks.
No, you bet, Greg. No, we appreciate it. And I think it's just time. We'll see how the conditions change. It's just like anything. Hopefully we will be able to go back each year, have these conversations and just see if there's opportunities. Nobody wants to overbuild, for sure. If there are changes, we can see if we can get approvals and make those.
Patty?
Yeah, Greg, thanks for those comments. I think we all can be in agreement that it's been a long haul to get here. And I think we can be in agreement when I say it's going to be a longer haul getting us to where we will be going in the future. This is, again, just the beginning. I'm just going to briefly reiterate the comments I made at first reading. This gives us the opportunity to do a lot of good things at the airport, a lot of green energy things, a lot of electrification, a lot of those things that we can move forward, noise, emissions, some of the parking logistics, and I think it's exciting that we can actually move forward on those things while we're in the process of looking at and going through the processes for all of the bigger things that we're now can be moving forward on. I want to really thank the community for their endurance race that we had them on for the last 18 months, 2 years, especially John Bennett, Meg Haynes, and Jackie Francis Tyler for their efforts, the amount of hours that everybody put in, the meetings, the information they had to sort through. It's been a huge process. And of course, I really want to thank the Pickens County staff for helping us get through this, for keeping the board in tune and in touch and up to speed as best they could for all 5 of us. It really has been a process that I think Pickens County is known for. We do these kind of public comment process efforts all the time. This one was just much greater, much larger than anything we've done, at least in the many, many years that I've been sitting on this board. So I'm really proud to have been a part of it. I'm proud to be moving this, this resolution, this vision forward now, and I think we're ready to take on the next steps in a hopefully brighter and safer 2021. So again, my thanks to the community and to staff and to the consultants and for everybody's patience, and to the press for all the hours that the press sat through trying to sort this out with us. So again, a huge thanks to everybody.
So I see that John Peacock, our county manager, has joined us. John, do you want to make any comments about the airport? Rich has already made some comments. We haven't done public hearing yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've been in and out of the meeting. I think I would echo all the thanks that Patty just gave. The community participation was remarkable. You know, the amount of time that was volunteered to the county by community members, the level of expertise that was shared, frankly, is unlike anything I've seen in my time in public service, and really appreciate that. There were a number of staff members, you know, from community development and public works and the airport, and, you know, from really all over the county that really stepped up to facilitate difficult discussions. And then finally to the board, you have given a lot of thoughtful deliberation, not just during this vision process, but for a lot of you, you know, really since 2012, we have been at planning processes and such. So, but most recently, you really supported and took seriously this public process. So thank you for your leadership. And Rich, thanks for bringing this home today.
No problem. Thank you, John.
Steve, I should probably add really quickly.
Yeah, Patty?
I just want to add, so staff and the public who might be watching know, as part of this last couple of meetings that we had, it really brought forward some issues that were related to Orange County, California Airport, John Wayne Airport. I did reach out, I think the board knows, I reached out to the county supervisor, chairman of the Board of County Supervisors in Orange County. Orange County supervisors also serve as the airport authority or airport commission to help manage and operate the John Wayne Airport. She just happens to also be a congresswoman-elect. She's going off to Washington, D.C., and she took time on Monday to meet with me by phone and answer questions about privatization, about the restrictions that they have, noise, emissions, and curfew at Orange County, and also I asked questions about their existing FBOs. They have 2 full-time and 1 partial FBO there, or limited FBO. So I passed that information on to Rich. We're going to keep it in the file for the responses I got to my questions. It was a very worthwhile conversation. So I just wanted the public to know that I did follow up on that, and we'll be bringing forth that information as we move forward in the future.
Okay, thanks for doing that, Patty. Let's see. I'm going to open the public hearing on this matter at this time, and let's see. Evan, you were on there first. Do you wish to make comments about the ASC Vision Committee recommendation?
No, not really. As you know, I'm in favor of the recommendation as drafted. I think it holds the greatest prospect for achieving the community's goals while preserving its values. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, I commend you as well as staff for all of the hard work and coming up to speed on this and making an intelligent and well-reasoned decision as codified in the draft resolution. So my hat's off to you guys, and I hope you all have a terrific and well-earned restful holiday season.
Okay, thank you, Evan. And thanks for your contributions to all the committee work over the past more than a year now. Okay, going next to the phone number ending in 1484, and you have your hand up. You need to, there you go, you're unmuted now.
Yeah, hi, this is Valerie Braun. I've been a member of the Aspen Vision Committee for the last couple of years. Having had the opportunity to study the resolution by the Board of County Commissioners of Pickens County, Colorado to adopt the Aspen Vision Committee Common Ground recommendations and airport map for the Aspen-Pickens County Airport, I believe there is still room for continued study of all the options available to make the Aspen-Pickens County Airport a long-term viable airport that will meet the needs of travelers and minimize environmental impacts on the Roaring Fork Valley. I very much agree with the next step, that the next step is to create an Aspen Airport Advisory Board to be the eyes, ears, and heart of the community as an advisory body to the BOCC. There are many members of the Aspen Vision Committee and other community members who have spent the last 2 years educating themselves on all sides of the issue. That would be a great place to start filling positions on the advisory board. I know in my heart that we can create a situation far superior to the current operations at Aspen Airport. We have to make sure we are not catering to the desires of the few with gigantic private jets over the health and well-being of the many on the ground. We have to encourage travelers to come here by commercial aircraft rather than in dribs and drabs in private jets. We have to discourage aircraft that will never be able to park at ASE due to the complete lack of parking space, and create that stop and drop syndrome that currently exists, and it would be exacerbated by allowing bigger private jet aircraft. We have to stop being patient waiting for loud, dirty private aircraft to cycle out of the current inventory. Although not perfect, the CRJ 700 has been the single most efficient jet aircraft to ever be commercially used at ASE. Mitsubishi is committed to maintaining this aircraft for the foreseeable future. We could have known this information a year and a half ago if we'd been allowed to have Mitsubishi representatives come and speak to the BOCC and Aspen Vision Committee. Many of our experts have had to walk back significant amounts of information that was gospel during the Aspen Vision Committee's deliberations. Please maintain your open mind and consider all options as this process continues. If there ever was a life or death decision made by the BOCC, it's probably this one. Life or death of our tourism industry, our environment, our inhabitants, our wildlife, our way of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
All right, Valerie, thank you for your comments, and also thank you very much for your service on the committees studying the airport.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. We have a phone number ending in 4612. Do you wish to speak on this?
Hello, this is Bill Tomsich. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Bill, we can hear you.
Oh, super. Thank you very much. And, I just wanted to offer a few quick comments here to thank you all for all the work and the careful deliberations that you've done here over the past couple of years. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about the theme that change happens, and change is going to continue to happen. And I wanted to share one example of some more change that is happening. And over this process, we've all had an opportunity to hear from some amazing subject matter experts. And the entire process has been an incredible learning experience, and for many of us, and myself certainly included. But the one example I wanted to share was what happened in Sun Valley just this past Sunday with an Embraer E175. And many of you know Alex Siebold, who's one of those subject matter experts that we've been hearing from and learning from. And he's been involved with this project to develop a new approach procedure into the Friedman Memorial Airport in Haley, Idaho, which shares very similar runway dimensions as the Aspen-Picken County Airport. Just on Sunday, which was a snowy day with less than barely a mile visibility, the first ever newly approved approach by the FAA was used by SkyWest Airlines to land Delta Flight 3528 from Salt Lake City. They emerged from the clouds, shot the new approach, and safely landed on time, and likely ushering in a new era of reliability for that airport. And like I said, this is the result of years of effort between SkyWest and FlightTAC, with Alex Siebold certainly playing a key role there. There's some media coverage surrounding this event. I shared an article with Rich Engelhardt last night that has some amazing photos, but it just goes to show you what can happen with collaboration, and this is a great example of change that should be embraced and not feared. Second subject I wanted to briefly touch on is the subject of the environment and sustainability. There was a features article in this week's Airline Weekly about the top 10 developments in 2020 and what to watch for in 2021. Number 9 on their list was the environment remains a top of mind for all the airlines. And related to that, just last Thursday, Scott Kirby, CEO of United Airlines, announced a bold goal of becoming 100% carbon neutral by 2050, and also announced a multi-million-dollar investment in a carbon capture joint venture with a subsidiary of Occidental Petroleum, and that they're actually building a plant in the Permian Basin in West Texas. So again, these are great examples of one of the key goals of the recommendations, which is to be very embracing of environmental stewardship. So finally, I just also wanted to congratulate everybody for this momentous occasion. You know, the Sun Valley enjoyed a momentous occasion last Sunday, and I think we're enjoying one right now, subject to the results of a vote that's soon to take place. There's been a lot of emotional debate here over the past couple of years, but I just want to thank everyone for their attention to this process and for their cordial dialogue, and the fact that I think the finish line is finally in sight. Thank you very much to everyone and all the volunteers who also made this happen.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you for serving also. We really appreciate your efforts and the efforts of all the more than 100 people from the community who served on the various committees. Okay, we've just been joined on the phone line by Barry Vaughn. Barry, do you wish to make comments about the ASC Vision Committee recommendation?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Terrific. I'm sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. My wife and I just got back down from the ski slope, and the conditions were really pleasant up there on Snowmass. And that really ties into the brief comment that I want to make here, which is, I don't know if you can see me. I'm still pulling off gear. You're probably better off if you can't see me. I really get it about, some people seem, the folks who are trying to put the brakes on this process regarding moving forward with the improvement of the airport, seem to be coming from a place where they don't want to lose the magic of Aspen and the greater upper Roaring Fork Valley. And I just want to say that, you know, I get it. The first time I skied into this valley was it's almost half a century ago. It was 1972, and came over from Crested Butte over East Maroon Pass, and I had, you know, 210 Bonas, 3-pin bindings, floppy leather boots, and it was state-of-the-art gear at the time, and I made all sorts of sitz marks on the way back, on the way down the valley on this side, and coming down East Maroon Creek, I thought I was in heaven. It was just amazing. The snow was up around the waist, and it was just a fabulous experience. We staggered into the Red Onion, and it will open again. We staggered into the Red Onion, and it was so convivial and so welcoming. I didn't want that night to end forever. And that's part of why I came back to the Valley in 2017, was because this is a magic place. I really get it. And I acknowledge that the motivation of the people who want to put the brakes on and not proceed with this improvement come from, if not the same place, a similar place. We're really appreciating the wonder that is this valley. But with respect, I'd just like to suggest that that comes from a position of fear. We're afraid of the big, dirty, noisy jets and the hordes that it might bring in, at least in terms of like monitoring the flow of the cruise ships and all the rest of it. It comes from a place of fear, and that's just, especially in these days, that's just the wrong way, I think personally, and this is just my opinion, personally, that it's the wrong way for people to make decisions, and it's the wrong way for governments to make decisions. And the thought I have on that, and this is going to be really short, is, and don't take it from me, take it from Michelle Obama, because back on the campaign trail in Phoenix in 2008, she said, and I quote, "Don't ever make decisions based on fear. Make decisions based on hope and possibility. Make decisions based on what should happen, not what shouldn't," end quote. And I'd just like to offer that as a voice of wisdom from the past, and hopefully effective now in the present and in the future, that the recommendations that were made by the Vision Committee, based on all the work that was done and all the input there, and the changes that were made to those recommendations by the Commission, that's based on hope, that's based on possibility, that's based on the vision of this airport being safer, cleaner, more efficient, as beautiful as ever. So I commend the work that you've done on this, and that everyone, staff and everyone, Rich and John and all the rest who have really put their heart and soul into this project, you should go forward with it. I applaud you for doing so. Please vote in favor of it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Barry, for your comments. And thank you also, everyone making public comments today has served on the various committees, and we appreciate your service also. Okay, is there anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment? You need to phone in right now. We're only going to wait about a half a minute to see if anyone else phones in. Just to remind the public, this will not be your final opportunity to comment about issues regarding the airport, because we will have many continuing discussions about the design and size of the terminal, the various things. There will be public hearings in the future, probably for quite a few years to come on the matter. So everybody stay tuned. And also we appreciate all of the efforts of all the members of the public who helped us out on this process, as well as all the members of the staff who participated above and beyond their normal duties. So I'm not seeing anyone else phoning in, so I am going to close the public hearing on this matter and bring it back to the board. George.
Yeah, as always, I really want to thank all those who not only participated but have taken the extra time to provide comments today, as well as with all of our past meetings. They've all been insightful, they've been thoughtful, and certainly I think they've helped me and I think the rest of the board in terms of coming up with these guidelines in this resolution. I think, as Evan Marks said, I think this provides a path forward. It provides a path forward to achieve our community goals while preserving the values that we hold true to heart while we all live here. It will provide us the opportunity for a safer airport, a greener airport, a quieter airport, and allow us to move forward and with our negotiations and discussions with the FAA, with the airlines and other partners to make this the most green and an airport and a terminal that we can all be proud of for generations to come. So thank all, and I certainly do support the resolution moving forward.
Kelly?
Hi, thanks, Steve. I gave my impassioned, comments, I think, the last time around, so I'll just sort of summarize, where I think we are and what our future looks like moving forward, and just call out some kind of specific things that I think are really important to note as we punctuate this process. This vision statement's a recognition that what we have is not good enough, and we want and will pursue better. But it also recognizes that the paths forward are not the same, and that different paths can diverge and take us to different conclusions that we may or may not want. And I want to read the important language that we added towards the end of this whole process that I think really confirms that our future airport will be the airport that we want it to be, that it will be the greener, quieter, safer airport that we all aim for. And that language is the preface to our airside improvement goals, saying the pursuit of the work in the proposed airport layout plan will not be approved by the Board of County Commissioners until such time as either negotiations with the FAA and or the airlines and other partners, or clear and convincing evidence in an updated fleet mix study indicate that only aircraft which are cleaner, quieter, and of a certain size will serve ASE. And, as I said earlier, I believe in the strength of our community. I believe in our community's voice. I believe in the intellect and independent-minded thinkers that have informed this process all through and through. I believe in our constituency to the FAA and our federal government and the strength we carry there. And I believe in our goals. And I think that they are noble goals. I think that they will set us up for the results that we want, for a cleaner, quieter, safer airport. And I want to thank the staff and all of our community partners and the leadership of our committees who put in countless hours to inform us in a really, I think, thoughtful, diligent, and comprehensive way. And with that, I'm ready to move this forward so we can start taking the steps to improve upon what we know isn't good enough for us and our community.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Let's see, I have not made comments. I pretty much said everything at the first reading also. But I'll just reiterate that I view this document that we're voting on today is a blueprint for how we can move forward for the airport. It lays out the process that we will follow to achieve our goals. So this is not the end of the process, it's just one more step in the process, really, going towards building a new terminal, making the airport cleaner, more energy efficient, safer, quieter. And those are really the goals we want to strive for. I just saw an article that from the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport who are bragging that they are 100% use 100% renewable energy for their airport. So I think they have set a high bar, and I would challenge the community in Aspen to try to match the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. We could be the first small airport to achieve that lofty goal. So someone from the board needs to make a motion, and I think I will only call on one person to do this. If he wants to be the one to make the motion.
Who would that be, Steve?
Well, I think it's you, George. Do you care to make the motion?
Well, thank you. I'd be happy to. I just recall back in, I think it was in 2009, and I was chair, and we went through, certainly not as nearly as an extensive a process, but we had a long discussion about the lengthening of the airport to make it safer and to allow aircraft to carry more passengers, certainly in the summertime. And then, of course, we started the update of our airport master plan that typically one does every 5 or 6 years. And that then led to an airline study, future aircraft study, and sort of led the way to this 18-month process to where we are today. So it's been going on for many, many years, and we can see that we continue to pursue and all the goals that all the commissioners have stated so eloquently. So with that, I'll be happy to make a motion to approve a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Pickens County, Colorado, approving Attachment A with amendments and additions to the ASE Vision Committee Common Ground recommendations and airport map for the Aspen-Pickens County Airport on second and final reading.
And since I was sitting on the board with George when we did the airport extension and went through this process, and I think I might have been vice chair to your chairmanship, I would like to second George's motion.
Okay, I think that's appropriate. So it's been moved by George and seconded by Patty to approve this resolution. Are there any further comments from the board? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a 5-0 approval of this resolution. Congratulations, commissioners, for a job well done getting us to this point in the airport process. And
now the fun
begins. Thank you, Rich.
begins.
Thank you, John. Thank you, GR. Thank you, all the other staff members who have participated in this. Let's see, how are we doing for, let's see, 1:30?
Let's just keep rolling.
I'm thinking my inclination is to keep moving right now on the agenda and not take a break. So,
Steve, I was just gonna recommend that we give all the people thinking deeply about the airport all this time. I think we should give them, the next week or so off, just as a gesture of our gratitude.
At least next Friday.
Okay, moving to our next item, and this is item number 7 on the agenda, the Aspen Consolidated Sanitation District Solar Project Annual BOCC Review. And this was continued from November 18th, and Leslie Lamont is on the screen. Welcome, Leslie. Could you tell us about this?
Hi, everybody. So I am here today.
Hi, Leslie.
Sorry, guys, a month ago. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Here we go. How's that looking to you guys?
It's good.
Good?
Small. Can you make it bigger?
Yeah. How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So, it's so good to see you guys.
Nice to see you, Leslie.
So, last year the BOCC approved the special use review for the RES solar project, which is on 35 acres of land that is owned by the Aspen Consolidated Sanitation District. And this site is the former biosolids disposal site. One of the conditions of that approval required an annual review by the BOCC. And it also required that the applicant submit a report for that annual review, and that report was attached to your memo, attachment A. This review requires public notice and it requires a public hearing. This was originally scheduled for November 18th, but there was a delay in the mailing of the public notice, so we ask you to continue this this month. Proper notice has been completed, and I've received the affidavit of public notice. The application is referred to the Brush Creek District, the Brush Creek HOA, W/J Metro District, W/J HOA, the Wooded Creek Caucus, and CORE. And no comments were received, except last Thursday evening, I did receive a comment from the Wooded Creek Caucus. And it's very short, so I'd like to read that into the record, because I don't think they copied you on this. But this is from the Wooded Creek Caucus Secretary, Linda Wag. For the record, the Wooded Creek Caucus is not now in favor of the solar farm and has never been a supporter of the solar farm. We feel the location is a bad choice. For the Wooded Creek Caucus by Linda Wag, Secretary. So, just want to give you another orientation here of the project. So this is McLean Flats Road, and one enters the property through W/J down this road to the 35 acres. And this is the portion of land that is proposed to be developed for the solar farm. This is also the Sand District property, but this is not proposed as part of this project. So the resolution requires an annual review, although no construction has started on the project. But there are some parts of the project that have been moving forward that I think are worth noting to the board and giving you all an update. So after a lot of work, the 2 access easements have been recorded, and that is an access easement. This, by the way, is not recorded yet, but the graphic that I'm using. But there's an access easement between Pitkin County and Holy Cross for the undergrounding of the conduit that will take the power to their power grid. And then there is an access easement that has been recorded between Pitkin County and the Sand District. As well, the activity envelope and site plan were recorded December 7th, and these 2 easement reception numbers are on that plan. The conservation easement has been put in escrow, and when that easement is finalized, that will be recorded, and then we will re-record the activity envelope to put that reception number on the activity envelope. The applicant is working on letters of credit. There are several financial securities that are required as part of this project, and therefore the county is requiring letter of credit for those financial securities. So the timeline as proposed by the applicant is that when they submitted their report, they were proposing to submit for building permits the end of this month. They intend to start construction March of 2021, and their goal is to complete the project by September of 2021. Since this project was approved, the entity that had teamed with the Sand District in this project review, Res Distributed, they have transferred their interest to a new company called Primergy Solar. And I will let the Primergy team introduce themselves to you, and they can explain some of the different techniques that they intend to use in construction on the site and also installation on the site. So staff recommends approval of the resolution granting this annual review.
Thank you very much, Leslie. And my name's Nathan Hewitt. I'm representing Primergy, and we're a company. We're based out of Oakland, California. However, we're a portfolio company of Pinbook Infrastructure, backed by the Australian Super Fund, and we have 30 operating projects. And one of the largest solar plus storage projects in the U.S., Gemini, in just north of Las Vegas, in Nevada. However, the biggest discussion from our board is usually around this project and this acquisition, and we're quite excited about this project and what it represents, and the location, and what we're able to do with it. That being said, our whole intent is to own and operate long term, and be part of the community in our approach. And it highlights on earlier just parts of the discussion in the meeting, and with the offtake being Holy Cross, and we're part of that 100% by 2030, and we're definitely proud of that. Some of the technology that we've been lucky to be able to deploy here that's going to help us is new bifacial modules. That's modules that in double glass that can take solar power from both the front and back face of the module, so reflection off the snow will generate some power on the back, obviously not as much on the front, but it makes them more efficient. And these newer, more efficient modules have allowed us to decrease the number of modules we'll require on the site upwards to 1,500 less than we originally thought. So this represents less modules, less structures, less overall impacts, and part of our approach definitely is to do as little impact and be in and out as quickly as possible when it comes to the construction aspect of it. And part of that is the least ground disturbance as possible. And we're looking to do an above ground approach with our wiring, which will still look good, but will be cleaner than disturbing the land, as well as a little to no grading except for the roads approach to our design, as well as incorporating a landscape buffer that will look, hopefully work naturally into the background and go about it that way. So that's a quick snapshot of the project, and a further update. We're looking now at more of a May to September date. And we're currently in the process of completing design and setting up procurement, and enough that we can proceed with the submissions for the building permits.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. And Nathan, it's good to meet you on at least a computer, on a Zoom screen. Look forward to meeting you someday soon. And it's good to see Natasha Kyler here from RES. And also, it's good to see you, Bruce Matherly, from Aspen Consolidated Sanitation District. And also Mona Newton from CORE is on the call. So we have an all-star team here.
I have a question for Nathan.
Patty.
Yeah, Nathan, nice to meet you. Welcome on board. One of my greatest concerns throughout this whole process has been the issue of glare, because of the flight path, because of the neighbors living above. So I just want to have you keep that in mind with new technologies as they have emerged, as they will emerge. Anything we can do to help reduce the glare on this site would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we're using a black framed module, more or less bespoke for this project that we're coordinating with the plant itself. Almost all the equipment is made in the U.S. or engineered in the U.S., but the modules come from Southeast Asia, and so we've been coordinating to make sure that those frames are non-reflective, and same with the overall fencing and the overall approach. So that being said, is with these frames, the solar panels are designed to absorb light as much as possible, or have that pass through so they can absorb on the backside. So hopefully it will actually be less glare than you would have even from snow. So this is something that we do take seriously, and we'll look to continually make sure that the plant, and as well as the landscape buffer, obviously from those angles, that you'll not have that, but you should hopefully have no visual impact or little as possible.
Great, and I think, as you said, the fact that there's more efficiency with the ability to absorb solar from both sides of the modules, I think you said that you might be able to have a limited number or less number, which in any way would also help with the visual impact. So I greatly appreciate your stepping up, and I think as part of the discussion we did the first approval was that technology is emerging as we sit here, so we expect that as the years go on, new things will come up and the impacts will be less and less, and the ability to generate more and more solar power will be greater. So we appreciate that, and you're bringing the new technology to the table. Thank you.
No problems. It's certainly an exciting time to be part of renewable energy, and as far as the technical options, as you highlighted. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Greg?
Great, thank you. It's great to hear you here, see you all here and hear this. I'd be interested in knowing what the output per panel is, just the rating is for, what sort of, how's the efficiency improved would be an interesting question. I guess the question I had is, it sounds like you could put in 1,500 fewer panels, or you could produce that much more electricity, and I guess that's been part of your conversation with Holy Cross and others. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, but also I did want to ask about, I know the support structures for the panels have changed, and I understand it's less invasive now. I have a couple other questions after that, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
Sure. Yeah. No. So we're limited on, and Steve, you can jump in as well if you want to, but we're limited on the AC side. So on the inverter side, I always equate it to, because my original background about 15 years ago was on the civil side, so I equate it to water. So we're limited about how much we can push out of the pipe, so to speak, on the inverter side. And so obviously the power curve that you have with solar is as the sun comes up, you have this nice curve, and obviously the more panels we have, the more DC we produce, that square block that we tend to get with evenings and night times as far as power block goes. And at some point, we're just, what's called clipping, is we're losing all that energy because we're AC limited on the inverter side. So the approach, as well as to manage both, as we talked about earlier, is managing the number or the impact we have, is that the amount of structures, the amount of panels that we put on the ground versus what we produce out, is one that we're balancing. So the panels that we currently have today, we're assuming are 440 watt. What I can say is in the near future, there's a roadmap in the next couple of years to go into the 500 and even 600 watts, and some are saying 800 watt modules out there. So there's definitely a really good trend. Not that long ago, we were looking at 100, 200 watts, but definitely per panel, definitely there's been quite the improvement in the technology. And as far as the structures go, we're using Array Technologies tracker, and we're just reviewing right now the foundation type, but certainly with this, there's less foundations to do, and we're currently contemplating like a ground screw or something like that as well to be able to support those structures. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Yeah, it did. Steve, if it's okay, the other questions I had were just regarding, the final one regarding, with this was, at one point I know that we were hearing from RES that they wanted us to eliminate the need for a completion or a removal bond of some sort if the site went out of service. You know, how will removal of the equipment be paid for in 25 or 30 years? And I'd love to know how that was resolved. I believe it has been, but I don't remember exactly how.
It's in here under 13.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Craig, Steve, that's my recollection as well. Steve Boyning from Holy Cross Energy. It's my recollection as well that was a stipulation of the commissioners.
Okay, and then the last one's a tough one, and this may be an unfair question, but I'm sure somebody here can help answer it, maybe Steve. We just saw our Community Energy Collective or Clean Energy Collective solar field go bankrupt in the valley in the last year or so. And I know that was a hit for the investors and the people involved in that. And so clearly it can be a dangerous business, I guess. I don't know if you have a comment to say about that, but it'd be great to understand just how well equipped you are to handle the vagaries of the economy and what's happening with energy.
You know, that's a good question, because there's been, it's been a challenging industry, but it's also an industry of opportunity, and we talked earlier in these meetings about how various aspects or parts of our economy are moving to green or no carbon in the near future, if not now or present. And having been in it for over 7.5 years, you know, and I've worked in South America, North America, Australia, and Japan, really see this as being a solidarity, and we're backed as a company by basically the Australian pension fund, and they've backed us. We've just raised another $2 billion, $1.7 billion to support our endeavors in this field, and I think it just speaks to the confidence level in our investments and in our strategy as far as to stay in this industry as well as and grow it. So I think for us it's we just see future, but obviously others, they see risk.
Greg, this is Steve Boyning from Holy Cross. I'd just add to Nathan's comments that we are in a wonderful time in this transition to renewable energy, because the forward projections are continued declining costs for renewable energy. That said, we are contractually committed to this project. At the time that we entered into this agreement, this was a good deal. And we respect that contract and that deal. If the developer and the project were to encounter a bankruptcy situation on their side, the structure of this contract would protect Holy Cross customers from taking on any liabilities associated with a business failure on the producer side. So we'd have a little more insulation, financial insulation, so to speak, on this project than the experience some participants in the Clean Energy Collective had.
Great, thank you.
Kelly, did you have your hand up earlier? Okay. Yeah, speaking of Clean Energy Collective, I owned some panels there at the Rifle Airport, and was sad to see that the Clean Energy Collective was going out of the community solar business. But now I'm planning on putting some solar collectors in at my own house, so just turn a lemon into lemonade for me. So, Okay, any
and
other?
If you do that, remember, Holy Cross still offers incentives for our members to install net metering facilities. So take advantage of that if you're a Holy Cross member.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I am a Holy Cross Energy member. Let's see, and so are there any other comments, presentation by, and I see Mona raising her hand, so Mona?
I don't have a presentation. I'd just like to make a few comments if this is appropriate.
Sure, go ahead, Mona.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. And it's interesting that I can't help but saying, because I've been supportive of this project since day one, and I think and CORE has been supportive of this project day one, that we're a year since your approval and we're getting a report. And climate change is not slowing. And so I would like to encourage you all as policymakers, as we encourage people we work with through the Community Office of Resource Efficiency, to move quickly and to keep moving quickly. And I realize that now it's moved into the hands of the developer from res to Primergy. I'd just like to say that it feels like it's taken a long time to get even to today. And so I think that we're all, after I've listened to your comments through the discussion of the airport, the same thing. Let's move as quickly and prudently as we can. I know we'll be able to take advantage of some bifacial modules, which is pretty exciting. And we just had Holy Cross's exciting announcement yesterday of the 100% by 2030, and this fits into that. I also I really thank you for your leadership, because this has not been an easy project to award and to approve, and you just got some comments from the Woody Creek Caucus about that they don't approve it. I'd also like to add that while they did not approve it, that during the conversations, there were many, many people who came forward and supported this project. Children, adults, elders in our community who supported it and continue to support it. And so we want to keep everything in perspective and allow us to keep going forward to do this. I always like to ask, and so I would like to take on the persona of Randy Udall for a minute, and he might have asked you, Greg, when you approve other projects, do you also ask them what will happen if they go bankrupt? Do you also ask them what will happen when in 25 to 30 years, rather than deconstructing, will the system be upgraded? Because we tend to ask these questions of renewable energy and energy efficiency. What's the payback? How much will I get my investment back? And I think that the answer to that is not always monetarily, but it is in leadership. We are going to get our investment back in spades in leadership in our community. And I think that I'd just like to ask that we look at this from a couple of different angles, not just the financial payback or what's going to happen to it over the long term. So anyway, thank you. I'm excited to see the project going forward. I can hardly wait to ride my bike on the Rio Grande Trail and see this system going in. And again, thank you for your leadership, commissioners, and Bruce for sticking through this, and Natasha, who's been through this project from the very beginning, and now Primergy. So again, thank you from all of us and all the constituents that CORE represents.
Kelly, and then Greg.
Thanks. Yeah, Norman, I appreciate that. 2021, we've set before us the tact of having even more difficult conversations related to how we tackle climate change. And, this project continues to be, for me, in my 2 years on the board, the single project which above and beyond, in far and away numbers, the one that I received the most comments on and the most public input on. in favor of it, and, you know, coming on the heels of our climate change emergency declaration as well. So I thank you for highlighting that. It's helpful to keep in mind. I do keep it in mind, particularly when we run into some reticence on the other climate action efforts we have before us. So yeah, I agree. I'd like to see this. I don't think this has been slowed down due to problems with the county, but maybe there's some hand in that, and you know, I would encourage any hand in that to move more efficiently. And yeah, we hope to see it. We hope to see it this spring, and we look forward to it. I'm proud to support it, and I will continue to.
Steve, I think I was next.
Yeah, great.
Mona, thank you, and Kelly also, thank you. I have to smile when you mentioned Randy, because he was a ski buddy and a friend of mine, and I still remember some of the wise things he said regarding our move from, and the necessity to move from fossil fuels, and some of the other things about renewables, and it certainly makes us all smile when we remember him. I think we have an obligation to inquire regarding, you know, what happens if things go wrong. I think who's going to ask that question if it's not me? So forgive me if I do. I have to say, I want to point out my frame of view here. I'm looking out the window beyond my screen here at the field, the location of the field itself. I can see it from my property in my house. And I have to say, I can also see about 30 homes in my neighborhood, and I know of one other than my own where we've actually installed solar in our interest in offsetting our own energy use. The other 30 have great solar access, but I'm just not seeing the movement, and I've been a proponent that they do that. And in lieu of every responsible homeowner who uses electricity in the community who could use solar, in lieu of that happening, I think we need a solar farm, because I'm not seeing the movement that I think we need to get to where we need to go regarding climate and reducing carbon. So I have been a proponent and will continue to be for this project. I think that's really what I wanted to say. I want to encourage people to be involved and get involved, but I think this is the best way forward, and I'm super enthusiastic about it. And I know down the road we're going to see some other great opportunities coming from Holy Cross as well regarding microgrids and storage. Steve and I have bounced emails back and forth about energy storage, you know, in a safe way. And so anyway, I will certainly vote for this. And I think that to put a little bit more perspective on it, the field in question has been used as a sludge depository for, I think, decades now. So I don't know how deep it is out there, but we're not looking at a pristine meadow. And so if we go back a little bit farther, we did have 2 coal-powered railways going through our valley at one point, and cattle operations, and we had an iron ore mine in Woody Creek. And so when people in Woody Creek talk about disruption of a pristine place, I have to put it in context. We don't have to go back too far to see what an industrial area this was. And I think that adding a solar energy field is probably one of the most benign ways we can actually do something positive to power our community. So I do like looking at that context. You know, imagine 2 steam trains going up and down the valley in competition, belching smoke, and you know, all the ore activities, everything else happening here. I think we're a lot cleaner than we were back then. So I'm happy to see this go forward. Thanks.
George?
Yeah, Greg, this is really, it's a field of dreams, right? and it's supporting, it's going to be supporting certainly the exciting news coming out of our new administration at the federal level in terms of the focus, the priorities, the money that's going to be put towards renewables. It is a field of dreams. It's a new era that we have not seen in decades, really. So it's really promising. And you know, it's interesting. Over the years, we've passed, the Board of County Commissioners have passed multiple resolutions supporting climate change and doing what we can do as a county And certainly this project speaks loudly in the pursuit and support of the county's climate action plan in terms of reducing our carbon footprint and moving towards renewables. And I think this is a project that has helped Holy Cross move their timetable up from 2040 to 100% renewables by 2030. So it's projects such as these that continue to support our goals as a county, and certainly piggybacks off of Holy Cross's ambitions, certainly for all of Holy Cross's members, but also as a model for other communities, other electric companies, co-ops, to continue to reduce their carbon footprint, shift from coal plants to renewables. So it's a great project, and I'm glad that the county and really the majority of our citizens who provided input understand the need that we need to walk our talk, and we're going to address climate change. We need to do that in our backyard as well. So with that, I'm certainly going to support this.
I'll make a few comments. I remember back a number of years ago now when I'd been looking around the county for good sites for a solar farm and talking to Mona Newton about it. And I had been looking at places where we could hide the solar farm, like at the landfill or different places where it'd be out of sight of the public, so there'd be less protest. If nobody had to look at it, everybody'd be in favor of building it. And Mona said, no, we want to put it out where everybody has to look at it, because we want, I'm kind of paraphrasing her. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago now at this point, but she said that we want it out where everybody has to look at it, so everybody then can take pride in the project and realize that our community is contributing to the solution of producing renewable energy. So everyone coming in on the left side of the planes landing at the airport will be able to see the solar farm. Everyone going up the highway will be able to see it, although kind of from straight sideways, it's not going to be really that visible. The one place that it is most visible from is where Greg's house is, up in that subdivision. And realizing that, you know, those people, their view will be different, but it's something that they can actually be proud of, that we as a community are doing our part to, you know, fight against climate change. Another point, at one point I calculated that we really need to do about 10 more equivalents of this size of project in our county for the whole county to become 100% renewable. Now, when I say the equivalent of, doesn't mean we need to build 10 solar farms of 5 megawatts each. Some of it could be small hydroelectric. A lot of it could be energy efficiency measures. For instance, the hybrid electric water heater that I just installed in my house is going to reduce my electric usage in my own house by a considerable amount. So those kinds of things, whatever we can do to save electricity and produce electricity by a variety of means. But we have a lot to do to become 100% renewable in our electric production. And so I really I'm looking forward to this project being built and operating. And I was really tickled to watch the Holy Cross announcement the other day of their new goal for 100% renewable by 2030. So we need to get to a public hearing on this matter, and I'm going to open the public hearing, and we'll see if there's anyone from the public who wishes to comment on This item now, this is the annual BOCC review of the project. And anyone from the public can comment on it at this time. Obviously, the project isn't built yet. It will be built starting later this spring and going through all next summer. So there will probably be a lot more to review in coming years than there is today. So we'll give a half a minute here and see if any members of the public call in to make comments. The number for the call-in is at the top of our agenda, which was posted on the county website as well as on the screen for Grassroots TV.
Natasha's got her hand up, Steve.
Hi. I think I'm maybe a member of the public. It's hard to tell anymore, but I've been involved with this project since the beginning, and I guess I want to nod to what's been said already, and say thank you for all the support from the county commissioners and from the community as a whole. But it hasn't been without its battles. It has been a long, hard fight to get this far over the last 4 years. And so in addition to thanking everybody for the hard work that they've done to get it this far, I would ask for more assistance in speeding this along and making the process streamlined and smooth to get it constructed. Because I think inherent in this community, especially, it is a way to make everything slow down and really analyze every last bit of it. And I think that's why Pickens County and Aspen is such a beautiful, wonderful place that so many people want to be. But it has made it extraordinarily difficult to get this project to move forward. And it seems that one single individual can put this project on hold for months, and that has happened, and that can continue to happen if you let it. And so I just want to acknowledge that has happened already, and that it can continue happening unless we put a stop to it, unless the people on this call really dig in and help the project move forward and stop encountering the red tape that it has encountered so far. So thank you again for everything you've done and that you will continue to do. As I've handed this project off, it's been a little bittersweet because it's a project that I'm going to be so proud of, and that I think we're all going to be so proud of for years to come. But yeah, it's definitely in Primergy's capable hands, and again, thank you all for everything you've done so far.
Okay, thank you, Natasha, for your comments. And also thank you for all the work you put in I know it's been almost a nightmare at times getting through all the things, all the obstacles that you have had to deal with in getting the project to this point. So we're not seeing anybody call in, so I'm going to close the public hearing at this time and bring it back to the board. So we would need a motion and a second.
I think we should look towards Greg for the motion on this one.
Okay, let's make sure I can find it here. Right in front of me. And so we've done the public hearing. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Aspen Consolidated Sanitation District Solar Project, this is just approving the annual review, as I understand. Is that close enough?
That's
Leslie?
close enough. And I'll second the motion. So it is moved by Greg, seconded by Steve to approve the annual review of this project. Is there any further discussion from the board? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, all in favor. All right, thank you very much. It's great to meet you, Nathan, and thank you, Leslie. Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you all.
see
So-
Leslie in a little while.
Yeah, you'll see me again.
Thanks, Steve.
So,
Welcome, thank you.
let's see, we have 2 more items and then open discussion. So what's the board's, you want to keep forging ahead right here? George?
George
Wants
wants to take
five?
5 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, Amy, and we'll be back at, let's say, 2:25. We'll do a little longer than 5 minutes. Okay, Amy? Okay, welcome back, everybody. Next on our agenda, we have the TDR program annual update, and Suzanne Wolf, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Suzanne Wolf for Community Development. Nice to see you all and happy holidays to everyone. I think, as you all know, this is an annual event where we provide sort of an update on the TDR program. The requirement to do this actually dates back to 1995 when we first created the Rural Remote Zone and the TDR program. But I think it's become a really good opportunity for us to kind of run these numbers once a year and put that information out for the public. So generally, I don't really walk through the whole report, but I'll just hit on a few highlights maybe for you. Interestingly, in some ways, it was a quiet year with the TDR program. We didn't create any new TDRs this year. We only had a handful extinguished or new approvals granted. So in some ways, those numbers were down from prior years. But I think probably the most unusual piece, I guess, for this year, the change was that the value of a TDR has escalated quite a bit in the last few months. We had been pretty consistent in the sale prices of TDRs over the last number of years, $200,000 to $240,000 per TDR. But we did in November see sales at $300,000, $350,000, and $360,000. So that now is the highest we've ever seen in the TDR market for a sales price. It exceeds the high value we saw back in 2007. So anyway, that's probably the most notable change, I would say, recently. And as we say to everybody who calls us and asks questions about that, it's all on the free market. It's based on free market forces, what the sale price is going to be. It's not something we control at all. It's what the market provides. So that piece. Otherwise, again, this is just kind of provides some numbers for the public. I always like to give a shout out to Mary Lackner with the GIS department, who works with me very closely on tracking this data, and then also enters that into the GIS layers. So we have TDR sending and receiving site layers. Those nice maps at the end of your packet today were provided by Mary, which show where we've approved TDR receiver sites. And there's also a new map that she provided mapping those rural remote development sites where we've seen development or development has been approved in the rural remote zone district. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but otherwise this is a resource that we put up on the website for the public to access. I think it's also helpful for everyone to know that the list of our TDR certificates that have been issued and then extinguished is also on the website, and I update that monthly. So that people can go find information about recent sales, where TDRs have been extinguished and not, that all of that information is available to the public. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So Suzanne, I have a question. I've probably had 5 people in the last 2 weeks call me asking if we have any TDRs or if we know somebody who has TDRs for sale. I don't know if they also call you. They probably do, searching. There seems to be a pretty strong market now for some people needing TDRs for their projects. Do you have any recommendation how? Now, some of them were realtors calling, probably the majority were realtors calling, and they're the ones who know their way around the TDR market probably better than most other people. But do you have any recommendations for people searching for a TDR?
Yes, I have been getting those same calls, Steve, definitely. And basically, I just send them to our TDR list. You know, they can see what's been extinguished and what hasn't. Some of the older TDRs that haven't been extinguished, before 2006, we didn't require people to notify us when the TDR changed hands. So some of our information, you know, isn't accurate as to who might currently hold a TDR certificate. So there's a bit of sleuthing involved with some of those, and I kind of put that out to the realtors to, you know, do that background work. But I do know I have talked to a number of them who kind of say they've been out beating the bushes and having a hard time finding TDRs. There's still quite a few, you know, TDRs that are unused and unextinguished. But again, it's the prerogative of the owner of that TDR to hold on to it, or, you know, they have various reasons why they might continue to want to hold on to their TDRs. So, but yes, that is definitely the word on the street, is that they're hard to come by right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's reflected in the price being the highest it's probably ever been. Kelly?
Thanks. Yeah. Hi, Suzanne. Appreciate this update as always. I guess I'm wondering, what are the you know, higher priced TDRs being used for at this point? And then, you know, do people know who are holding TDRs, either know that the market rate is going up? Are they just being contacted by realtors as well? And then finally, are you hearing from people who maybe are considering severing TDRs given the higher market rate?
Okay, I'll see if I can remember all three questions, but I guess maybe I'll work from the back, and then by then I'll have forgotten your first question. But I have had a few people contact me about severing TDRs from their properties. So, you know, again, a couple of those. Again, the idea was that the TDR right could be an incentive for someone to take the right off of a property that they have no intention or ability to develop. You know, it's not like I've seen a flood of those, but I have had a couple of inquiries about that. In terms of how the TDRs, you know, those higher sales are going to be used, you know, we don't necessarily, I mean, I could look at information and see if they tie up with approvals we've granted or not. But we don't, you know, those don't extinguish until they come in at building permit. So even if somebody's bought it with the intention of using it for an approval that they've gotten, if they never pursue that approval, they may put it back out on the market. So really until they land, which is at the point when somebody is in a building permit process, that's when we extinguish. So, you know, not quite a direct correlation there necessarily. There was a question in the middle. I don't remember what that one was.
Yeah, it was just for people holding TDRs, how are they kept aware of like what the market is doing, or
yeah, I think you know, we don't do anything to keep them aware. I think, you know, again, the realtors, I've talked to several realtors who I know have been doing a lot of work out there trying to find owners. You know, definitely there could be owners of TDRs who don't even realize that they still have that certificate. So it'll be interesting to see if they, you know, check some of those people out, you know, to find, and I think it's through that communication of a realtor contacting them where they might become aware that how valuable that certificate is that they're holding.
Okay, George?
Yeah, I'm going to guess that the increase in the price of the TDRs is a direct correlation with the runaway real estate market that we've seen in the last 6 months here in the county, and certainly on a higher end homes and even less. And I'm also assuming that ComDev will see probably in the next year an increase in applications for remodels and increased square footages as well.
Kelly?
Yeah, that's sort of what my next, I guess, question was, Suzanne, is, you know, what do you and ComDev, like, what do you think the story is what's the story around TDRs right now? What is this data trying to tell?
I can give you, the speculation or clearly, what I hear out there. Obviously, right, the amount of real estate that has, changed hands and, again, people looking at what their rights are and their development abilities. Obviously, the talk about, growth management and the TDR program and what that might be in the future and if it might change, I think that has a direct effect as well. And I don't know, I see Cindy's on. I don't know if she might want to add anything to that discussion.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, I mean, listening to this, it takes me back and reminds me of when we created the TDR program, and the idea was that it would be a free market program. And it has remained a free market program throughout the 20 plus years. And it has been very successful as such. And we see these changes and flows. And definitely, I think one of the questions that was asked was, what does it look like out there? And this summer, when we were looking at growth and looking at our exemptions in growth management, we looked at TDRs, and there we saw a balance of about a third, a third, a third. And basically about a third of the TDRs have been severed but not applied to various pieces of property. So we know that they're out there, as Suzanne said. It's a matter of people finding them or people being willing to sell them. So we also know that there are a number of people in the real estate market with TDRs. And I think that it's just played out the way that we thought it would. And this is the normal course. And I believe that just having looked at our sort of year-end look at our building permits, what we're seeing as we move forward, we've had a lot of emphasis on remodels. And I think that may continue as we've seen a lot of sales this year, because I think there are many people who may have purchased with the hope that they are going to do remodels and make the home more their liking, and that may or may not mean that TDRs are involved. So hopefully that answers a little bit more of your questions, and happy to answer anything else I can.
Okay, Suzanne, this is just a question. This is not a public hearing on this, is it actually? It kind of reads that way on the agenda, but this is more just an information for the commissioners, or do we need to officially accept your report?
It is a public hearing. The ordinance does require that we make it a public hearing. There is no action taken by you to, but it is a public hearing.
Okay. Kelly, you had your hand up?
Yeah, this is probably more a question for when we start to evaluate growth management in the TDR program more. But I guess I wondered if the county has ever done like a premium program to add a premium for severing a TDR, in a specific location or something like that. If we're thinking about like Richmond Ridge, where we've had success severing TDRs, has there ever been any additional incentive applied on top?
Okay, this is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing right now, and we'll see if anyone phones in. You can get the phone number at the top of the agenda, which is posted on the county website. You can also look on the grassroots screen and get the phone-in number. Anyone wishing to comment about the TDR program report for this year?
Steve, while we're waiting on the public, just to answer Kelly's question, no, we've never done a premium program or anything like that. So.
Okay, not seeing anybody phoning in. Didn't anticipate there probably would be. Probably when we get back to our, our cocktail of the proposed changes to the land use code, some of which dealt with TDRs, we will probably hear a lot at that point from the public on the TDR program in general. Okay, so I'll close the public hearing on this. Any further questions for Suzanne about the program? I always enjoy looking at the report. My family doesn't have any more TDRs, but we were involved in it for quite some time. Okay, thanks, Suzanne. Thanks, Cindy. Okay, going to our last item is a land use action. And this is a resolution approving an extension of the deadline to record the Highland Bavarian subdivision final plat. And we have Leslie Lamont here for staff and Glenn Horn representing the applicant. Leslie?
Yes, hi. So the applicant seeks to extend the recordation deadline for the Highland Bavarian subdivision and final plat. So the BOCC approved the detailed subdivision and final plat November 6th of 2019. And the family who owned the property at the time, the Coffey family, then was working through Glenn really hard to get all the various easements and plats and all the details of that approval finalized for recordation. Before the documents were recorded, the Coffey family sold the property. And now the new owners of the property are working with Glenn, and they are trying to understand what they want to do with the property, understanding what the approvals are, understanding how they might want to move forward. And so in order to give themselves time to figure out what they want to do, and perhaps they might want to amend the approval, they're asking for an extension to the recordation deadline. The code provides that these documents need to be recorded within 1 year of approval, and the code also provides that the board can grant a one-time extension. So staff is recommending that that this be extended to October 10th, 2021, and I apologize, in the resolution, and now therefore for it be resolved, I said October 10th, 2019, and that should be October 10th, 2021. And I used October 19th because actually October 19th was the date that the board approved everything.
Okay, Patty?
Yeah, I remember the day we approved it, and I think all the comments from the Board of Commissioners were how awesome this project was, how this was one of the best things we'd ever been able to do, how hard we'd all worked on it, how pleased we were with the gives and takes, et cetera, et cetera. So I just am reminding Mr. Horn to remind the new buyers of those comments the BOCC made when we did this approval. This was an amazing historic preservation. The trail on the other side so people could actually see the beauty of the end of the valley, how important those things were to the Board of County Commissioners. And so hopefully, I can understand they wanted time to review because it was a very complicated approval process, so land use application. So I understand. I don't have a problem giving them time. I just want to make sure that the new buyers are aware of the comments made by the BOCC when we made the approval. And so I'm hoping that any amendments don't really significantly alter all the hard work that went into this first approval. because I think it's going to be a tough one, because we were all pretty in awe of the preservation of our ability to work with the coffees to get this done. And I know things change, and I know new buyers will have different ideas, but and it was a pretty special approval for us. And I just want to make sure that the new owners know that. Thank you, Glenn. I know you will pass that on.
Greg?
Yeah, I think I was going to say what Patty said. It just there was a certain amount of whiplash to find out because we did celebrate. We were so excited about preservation of this really important historic site, and with the great amenities that the public could appreciate that site without having to absolutely go on the property. And so I don't know what to anticipate regarding changes in permissions and easements and activities, but I just want to say, yeah, there was a certain amount of whiplash, and I'm trying not to be cynical. I guess these things happen. I understand they do, and it's just happened many times. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I'd like to express the same as Patty has.
Kelly?
Yeah, I'd like to just ask for a little clarification as to like what, what stands right now and what doesn't. I mean, we're asking for the recordation of the plat, which is related to the approvals that we gave, but have conservation easements been recorded? Like, where sort of are we at? For Leslie or John, I guess.
Yeah, so because nothing has been recorded, there's no subdivision, there's no conservation. So the subdivision drove all the incentives and the benefits to both the property owner and to the county. So there's no conservation, there's no trail easement that has been recorded. There's no historic preservation covenant on the Bavarian Lodge. The ranch parcel and the Mesa parcel are not two parcels. Through the review process, it was determined that Castle Creek Road did divide the Castle Creek parcel, the parcel that's on the side as you're going down valley. But as far as transferring square footage off of the Castle Creek parcel onto the Mesa parcel, in the activity envelope and site plan that the board approved for the Mesa parcel, none of that exists right now until these documents are recorded.
And what happens with vested rights? Like is the clock ticking or not?
Clock began ticking with the approval. However, if nothing is recorded, if the plat is not recorded against the property, the vested rights become moot because, the development approval is not being pursued. So the status is, for the property, as Leslie said, the same status as existed before the application process, with the exception that the county did recognize a development right for that smaller piece over by Conundrum Creek Road.
No, I think you mean, John, the small piece on the other side of Castle Creek Road. The county,
Castle Creek Road, not Conundrum.
right, the county did not find that the small piece on Conundrum Creek Road was a separate parcel.
Okay, any other questions for Leslie? Okay, let's go to Glenn Horn, and you can do a presentation, Glenn. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to be participating. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So as Leslie explained, the property was acquired in the end of the summer by Meredith Loring and her husband, Sami Inkinen. It's in an LLC, and they're looking at all their options right now. All of the documents that were required to be filed with the county were completed and approved by the county staff. The only thing that was required to be done would be to submit the documents with signatures on it. So everything is ready to go. The new owners are looking at what their options are. They're going to live on the property full time, and as part of looking at their options, they're planning, they're doing the site plan review application for where their house will be, which was not part of the approval process. The approval process created an activity envelope on the ranch parcel, but did not grant site plan review approval for their house. So with that said, we've been working very hard on coming up with what the new owners would like to do. I've made them fully aware of how the land use application was received by the county staff and the Board of County Commissioners, and there was an awful lot of excitement, and everybody was pretty happy with the way things turned out, you as well as me. So they understand that. They're going to continue with the historic designation, and they're just looking at these other site planning options, and they need a little bit of time. I am concerned, given that this is going to have to go back into the review process, and in talking with Leslie, probably go to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. And Leslie suggested that we make a change to the resolution, if it's acceptable to you, that when we get to October 10th of 2021, if everything's not in a form to be recorded, that the planning director have the capability to extend the deadline further, because you're only allowed to extend it for 1 year. So I would ask that we be given the capability for the director to extend it another few months from October 10th, 2021, because I do envision that there's going to be a review process for what the new owners want to do. So I would make that request, please.
Greg?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Glenn. I'm just looking at John Ely, wondering, is that the sort of thing we can do? We can renew it for a year, but insert a clause that says it can be automatically extended?
Well, the requirement for the recordation of approval documents, particularly plats, is so that the public, the county, the property owners know where they stand. In the past, before this requirement existed, there were instances where an approval would hang out there for an inordinate amount of time, such that you never knew. Did we get that conservation easement? Did we get the trail? Is the property going to be developed in this way? And so the county came up with this requirement. The requirement's a function of the board and the board's articulation of the requirement in the land use code. So we can extend that time as Glenn has requested. And in this case, the justification would be on the strength and the acceptance of the approval as granted. In other words, we feel that this is a valid approval and quite frankly, a good piece of work. So to give the new owners time to consider it and hopefully figure a way that they can work with it and accept it and record it, there is justification for enlarging the time for recordation of the document. So ultimately, at the end of the day, that decision is to the BOCC's. The BOCC's requirement is what drives this need for an enlargement of time and the need to record the documents ultimately.
Patty, then Kelly.
Yeah, I just want to tag on to that. Does the code allow us to do that, or does the code say you get a one-time extension based on approval by the BOCC? Is there anything in there that says, oh yeah, if that one-time extension needs to be further extended, it can just go to the ComDev director?
No, it's the BOCC's decision for any kind of extensions along those lines.
But does the code read one time?
The code reads that, to tell you the truth, I can't remember if it says one time or just a maximum amount of time for an extension. I think it's more of a maximum amount of time. So to extend it further than that would require an examination of the code language.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're following the code. It's very complicated. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just want to make sure we're not getting around the code somehow, because that we can't do that. We have to follow the code as the code's written. So thank you. So we just need to keep that in mind as October of 2021 creeps upon us.
Kelly?
I just want to defer to Suzanne to answer. She sort of looked like she was going to jump in before I ask my next question.
You know, I started to, but I think probably better for us to read the code language with John, just because it does say a one-time extension, but that looks like the language is referring to actually filing the application for a final plat, not so much the final plat recording after the fact of the approval. So again, I think what John spoke about in terms of having the leeway, but it is in the board's purview, so we can look more at that.
And then I guess my question is, I'm not sure I faced this before, so I'm a little confused. If on one hand we're asking for an extension of the plat based on all the prior conversations, but then Glenn is presenting that in the duration of that time they would make a different presentation through the planning and ComDev and the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I'm just confused as what's happening. So preserving what's already approved while pursuing a different approval, at what point is that just giving the owners two different options at the end that they can choose from when that timeline ticks off? Or is at some point our approval null and void when they pursue a different approval on the property?
The approval isn't necessarily null and void by somebody filing an application for a modification or for a different perspective of development, which may be denied by the board. But if the board approves something new, then the previous approval would go away.
Okay, that's helpful. So that in the end, they could have two options that they would sort of say, this is the one we actually want to pursue. And it would be the same as the one we approved, or it would replace that approval. Okay, thanks.
Glenn?
I just wanted to mention that right now, the idea is that there's going to be an amendment to the approval and then continue with most of the approval, but with some adjustments.
Patty?
So Glenn, thanks for that clarification. But if the BOCC decides we don't want to go with any new amendments, we want to hold to the approval that we already have approved, what happens then with the request for extension? I mean, if we say, did they have to live with the current approval?
If the board denies the request for an amendment or modification of the existing approval, then the current approval stays in place until the time period for recordation lapses. And if it hasn't been recorded, then it goes away.
So that would be right now, if we extend and they're in the process and we've reviewed it by October 2021, they'd have to fish or cut bait by October 21. They'd either have to sign or withdraw the whole thing and start from scratch.
Right.
Okay.
Greg?
So Glenn, are you thinking 3 months after that year-long extension? Are you thinking January 2022? Should we set a date? When would you come in to ask for that extension, and is that something we would do now?
Well, I'd like to have a little more time than October 10th, 2021, just because, I know that the staff is backed up with caseload applications, and I think this is going to have to go to the Planning Commission and the board. And so I just get nervous about a date that's just really 11 months away to go through the review and file all those documents. That's my concern.
And so you're thinking 3 extra months, or is that kind of what I thought I heard you say?
Yes.
Infer.
Yes.
Well, could we do that now? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Could we do that now and just extend it to April 1st, 2022?
Well, given what Suzanne said, and which was echoing what I was talking about, to be honest with you, I'd rather stay within the realm of the code that we know is
1 year.
allowed and tracks with Leslie's recommendation. If additional time is needed, if it takes longer to get out of P&Z, for example, than was anticipated, the board can revisit the extension and we can delve into the code strictures at that point.
Okay, I'm good with that. Thanks, John.
Yeah, it appears that we would have a mechanism for it going forward. I don't know that we need to write it into the extension right now, just if they don't have their modifications to the project done by October 1st, then they could just ask for another extension. So I would urge the owners and Glenn to try to, I mean, I always thought someone should live on a property a year before they try to even think about changing anything, and that's kind of would take, that's the whole year right there before they even should start thinking about what changes they want. So it seems to me it is probably going to take longer than a year to do the whole process. George, and then Kelly. Kelly.
I just want to tell the board, in full disclosure for the board, the trail had been prematurely added to Pitkin outside map. And so my family and I went tromping along in there this summer and met the owners. We had a lovely enough interaction with some confusion about what was happening. So I just wanted the board to know that. And, they had emailed me about clearing that up, and I emailed Open Space to get that removed from the trail map. So no one else would be trespassing on private property.
Greg?
Steve?
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I think you nodded. So what I thought I heard Glenn ask for was that we could delegate this extension to Leslie or ComDev somehow. Is that what you were asking, just so it doesn't have to come back to this board? Is that what the request was?
Yes. What I was asking was that, let's just say it takes 4 or 5 months to get on a planning commission agenda, and then, goes to the county commissioners a couple months later, and then for some reason, if there's a continuance, I just get concerned about a date that's just 11 months away. And so what if I was asking is that you grant the authority to the planning director to extend it further if need be, if there's good cause, for example, a continuance or a delay in getting on an agenda. That's what I was thinking about.
I would just throw in too, we have done that. I know we did it with the Soldner subdivision, where they delayed recordation of their final plat, and the board did extend that deadline and then did give the ability to the director to do that again for good cause. Again, at the time that was, they were working out details related to a potential open space conservation easement and things. So again, that was seen as good cause related to that project. So there is precedent for doing it that way.
George, then Patty.
Yeah, well, I think even with that example, Suzanne, the BOCC was kept in a loop along with the Open Space and Trails Board. So I would suggest that you just sort of follow the code as it is, and then if it needs to have an extension, that it could go through that process, begin with the planning director, but then also going through the BOCC if nothing, if for no other reason, it's just to keep the BOCC abreast in terms of what the status is.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, George. If we're already kind of on the fringe of the code doing this, I think we should try to stick to the code as much as possible. And with soldiers, that's what happened. We were part of the process of establishing that conservation easement with 2 open space departments. But the board was always in the loop. And I think we need to be, so we know what's going on and just to keep it clean.
Yeah, also if Glenn, if you have made the application by next October, but it's gonna take 5 months to get it through the process, that's different than if you haven't made up your mind and you're sort of looking for more time for the owners to make up their mind what they wanna do. Is different than having made up their mind and just waiting in the queue to go through the review process, are kind of 2 different things. I think I would feel more comfortable with having the BOCC actually kept in the loop, and if an extension is needed in October, I think it, for reasonable reasons, then there shouldn't be any problem doing that, I don't think, as long as it meets the code, the wording of the code.
Well, I wanted to thank you for considering this, and just I mentioned to you that the team that's working for the owners is intending to submit this application in January to get the process going right away. So they're very anxious to move forward because they want to live on the property as soon as possible. Right now, they're doing some renovations to the interior of the lodge, but they're a family of 4. And they're anxious to move along, so we'll move along as quickly as possible.
And I would like to add that the new owners have been very diligent in reaching out to staff, including Susanna Reed, and really trying to understand what they have and trying to figure out how it works within their vision of the property.
Greg?
Steve, are you, if we're ready for a motion on this, I'd make a motion that we approve the extension of the deadline to record the Highland Bavarian subdivision final plat. And do I need to say October 10th, 2021?
Was that the right date? Because I'll second it, but is that the date, Leslie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second.
October 10th. Okay, it's moved by Greg, seconded by Patty to approve the resolution as it's written. That's correct, Greg? Without any modification to it. Right. Is there any further discussion from the board? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Glenn. Happy holidays, Glenn.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, Glenn.
Good to see you,
Looking forward
Glenn.
to seeing what comes of it.
Thank you.
Okay, winding down here, we are to open discussion at this point. Rich Engelhardt, do you have anything on your plate there?
I am showing nothing in the notes for open discussion, so I think we're good. Other than I would like to, again, thank the commissioners for your commitment. And then George, I just want to tell you personally how much I've enjoyed working with you, and you're just an exceptional commissioner in the way that you approach things. You do your homework, and just like your other members there. But your leadership has just been really good and been a pleasure for me. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, if I could, I just want to share some experience I had just today. This is regarding the affidavit program, which we rolled out regarding COVID-19 and visitor requirements in order to try to keep our economy open through the holiday season in the winter. I received a text this morning. It was really interesting. They said we weren't sure, or a couple days ago, I was texted by a friend who said we had some inquiries about this affidavit. Visitors coming into their home on Red Mountain, what do they do? They didn't really know about it. And I said, well, here's how you find out. I directed them to the information. So they went and got tested, and one of them turned out positive. They discovered that they had a positive result. And as a result, they said, okay, we love Aspen. We're coming back. We're canceling our trip now until everybody's healthy. Thank you. And they were actually expressing gratitude that we were doing this. And then this morning, I received a text from a local who's out of town who was very upset and accused me of destroying the town because we have an affidavit requiring people to get tested before they come back to town. And they were saying, oh, it's impossible to get a test here in Florida, when really I went and looked myself. It's probably easier to get tested in Florida than it is in Aspen, where they are. So just the contrast of what we're seeing with people who are enthusiastic about what we're happening with the affidavit versus the resistance that we're still feeling. And I know that that's happening in the community, but I can share that I've heard a lot of good positives about this affidavit program. And I think we have to work a little bit harder to disseminate the facts about it and what we're actually trying to do, which is to actually have an economy here and avoid shutting down. So I'm going to keep being an evangelist for this, and hopefully we'll have a great, safe holiday season.
Steve, can I just add to that?
Yeah,
Greg, I want to add to that. It's my understanding that more than 3,000, maybe closer to 3,500 affidavits have been filed. So people, and there's been some communication with staff for people who have said, I know there's both sides of the story, but people who have said, we are comfortable coming to Aspen because we know that will have been tested and that other visitors will have been tested. So there's a positive side to those. I know some people are saying everybody in the world is canceling coming here, and I'm sure there are some that are canceling for a variety of reasons. And this, the affidavit may be for some the reason why they're canceling. It's, again, not a hard process. For those who want to know more about it, it's at pickingcounty.com. Click on the COVID site, and it directs you right to the traveler affidavit, and you can review it, frequently asked questions. There's a ton of information about it. Takes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to fill it out. So we really appreciate the community supporting this and supporting the 5 commitments. And it's critical if we want to stay open and after the holiday season, throughout the winter season. We just don't know what's coming, and so we're just, everybody, I think, staff, the Board of Commissioners, the Board of Health, just trying to do the best that we can with the uncertainties that come out on an hourly basis some days as to where this virus is going and who it's affecting.
Kelly?
Yeah, I'll comment on this, and then I do have an open discussion item related to COVID to bring to the board. I think if you've had to be under quarantine because you've been exposed to someone, my experience is that the people we were exposed to felt so awful about the disruption that was caused to so many other people's lives who had to quarantine because they were unknowingly ill and exposed to other people. And, I generally think most people feel that way and are reasonable and caring for other people around them. And so knowing if you are well or not well, not only protects you, it protects other people around you. And most people want to do that. They don't want to unknowingly, I think, cause such disruption in people's lives. So I think it's a good program. I'm glad we're still doing it. And I think, our programs that we've taken on before other places in the state have borne out the fact that we're doing better. Our cases are really high, so better is I think, a small increment these days, but a little better. So the item I want to bring forward on this note is we are being asked by fellow resort counties to support them in their request to the governor and CDPHE to allow their county's restaurants to operate at 25% capacity over the holidays. So Route, Summit, Grand, Clear Creek, County La Plata, County, you know, their situations have been different from ours. We did not voluntarily move into the red. Some of these other counties moved into the red either voluntarily or by CDPHE, and they have experienced decline in cases because of it. So, you know, moving into the red epidemiologically has been effective in lowering the incidence rates in the counties who have gone into red. In addition to, you know, assisting with their hospitalization metrics and positivity metrics. And you know, you can go look up the Summit Daily to get another more flavor of the conversation at the Summit BOCC about this, but their feeling is that the state has not held up their end of the bargain on their commitments because they have experienced 2 weeks of declining case rates, to the point where they're now lower than Pickens counties even. And, you know, their positivity rates have moved down, their hospital concerns, you know, were never drastic, but are in a good spot on the dial. Yet the state is not allowing them to go back to orange level capacities for 25% indoor dining. And so they are really upset. Their restaurants are really upset, and they feel like they're being treated differently from one, what they were being told, and two, what the experience for us in Pickens and Eagle currently is, where, you know, even though our incidence is in the red, all of our other metrics are not, and we're not being forced to go into the red by CDPHE. So why are these other counties being kept in the red? So I wanted to bring that forward. It's a very fast, quickly evolving dialogue, and they would like our support on either our own letter or their letter to the governor and CDPHE to allow them that. And so I wanted to check in with you on that. John Peacock and I have been having conversations all morning about it. We may suggest submitting our own letter just because of some concerns about how the arguments being presented, but
Steve,
thanks for your input.
Kelly, you said we are being, who's asking us? Is it CCAT?
So sorry. No, it's not going through CCAT because CCAT's membership is broader than the resort communities. So Route, Grand, and Summit, and La Plata, and Clear Creek.
But are asking, how did you find out? How did it come to you?
Summit, from Summit County Commissioner.
Okay. Because, you know, I asked Northwest Cog to sign on to our letter and heard back from none of Grand, Summit, those counties. So I think it's interesting. I understand the position they're in. I truly do. I just don't know, when our restaurants are open, they're taking names, temperatures, phone numbers for people who can get in. We have the 6 foot distance. I mean, are they following any kind of protocols like that if they're going to reopen at 25%? Do we know that? I mean, I would feel comfortable supporting a letter if I knew they were doing our Orange Plus protocols for opening restaurants. I mean, if they're going to be, yeah, I don't want to see their numbers start going.
Not presented. I mean, some of the discussion I've had has been they want to be sort of first in line for the 5-star variance consideration, but that was not discussed in the letter that they presented as far as like what they're committing to. They're saying, hey, we held up our end of the bargain. We did what we needed to bring our cases down. You know, you should let us go back into the orange.
Well, and I truly, oh boy, I understand that. And I would support them having their restaurants at 25 if I knew they were going to follow these extra precautions. And that's something we should suggest to them. I don't see why they wouldn't, because it makes sense. So I could move forward with a letter supporting them if they outlined we are going to go above just the orange. We're going to do this, this, and this in our restaurants if you allow us to open at 25%.
Okay, I'll bring that info back.
Thank you.
George?
Yeah, Kelly, it seems like the question is not whether we should support restaurants being able to go back to 25%, but more importantly, that the state follows the guidelines that they put forward. I mean, that seems to be the issue. And
Yeah.
it seems like that seems to be where we should be putting our energy and support, that the state's not following the rules that they set up.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, George, but did all of those counties, are all of their numbers dropping, or just is Summit's getting better? I don't know what the numbers are doing on La Plata and Clear Creek and Grand. Are their numbers coming down too? Have they been back into the orange category for 2 weeks like you have to be to get removed from red? I don't know that.
I think they have. I
Right.
don't think they all have.
Yeah, but the point is everyone should be playing by the same ground rules, right? And if the state's not upholding their end of it, we should be holding the state's feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, but Kelly just said not all of those counties who are asking for 25% opening have been in the orange for 2 weeks, which is the state's protocol. So they're all grouping together. So some of them have been in the orange and some of them haven't. So that's a tough one, because then that'll throw those counties out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Patty, I have the same concern. And again, I think we could write our own letter to say, you know, we support the state being consistent and in following up what they said they were going to do, and being clear on that. I don't think it, you know, I think the concern is they want their restaurants open for 25% for the holidays.
Yeah, and then
right?
add,
So I
yeah.
support that blankly without these additional nuances as well.
Right, and add to that, and if open, then we would suggest they follow this, and this as far as the 25% opening of restaurants. Yeah.
Okay.
I would be, and I would be able to support a short and sweet letter that just said that and support them, because they're gonna get hit, but I wanna make sure that it doesn't affect the fact that they're making progress to getting their numbers down.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kelly, do you want to draft a draft letter? I think we should try to see where they all are on the dial, what their numbers are too, because I think that that's a pertinent information on, you know, what their situation is compared to ours. But if they want to go to like an orange plus like we are and be, you know, get out of the red zone and have more of their businesses open, I would support that if they're taking the proper steps.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Greg?
Yeah, I agree with what Steve said. I just think if we do write them a letter and we articulate everything we have done and have been doing going forward and what we're doing now, in order to try to keep things going, I think hopefully that will be helpful. But I'm a little, I'm also cautious about it. So I think you can probably craft a nice letter.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think these are all good points. You know, it's Pickens is getting called out a little bit. If you read in the Summit news, it's like Pickens numbers are higher than Summit. Why are they getting treated differently? You know, we didn't move into the red. We didn't have to move into the red. We're not being forced into the red. CDPHE isn't putting us in the red. You know, these are all related to decisions that we've made throughout the pandemic, not just now. But that, you know, we are being highlighted for that. And so I think these are great suggestions to also highlight what we have done.
Right.
Community have committed to as well.
Steve? The other reason, though, that some of these other counties is because they've met the 2 matrix. We haven't. We've only met 1. We are doing really well in the percentage of testing versus positives. That's what's keeping us out. You have to meet, as we all know, you have to be in 1 for X amount of time, and the other one you only have to be in for a day. And we are doing better in those with our percentages. But Summit County was not. That's why they got tossed into the red. They were meeting.
Yeah, but if you were to compare them to us right now, they are doing better.
Yeah, but you have to be, and for Summit County, if they've been in the better for 2 weeks, that's your moving point. And for the state not to allow that is wrong, especially with the holiday season coming up. But we've had inconsistency with the state since day 1, as we all know, and it's frustrating. So I don't mind helping our neighbors.
Okay.
Well, this all makes sense. Yeah, so thanks, and I'll continue to work with John, to put something together. And that's all I had.
Yeah, and then have Steve sign it as chair.
Okay. So we have a meeting on Tuesday, December 22nd, which will be a special meeting for, it's a mill levy thing and also the Sunfire Ranch.
Sunfire Ranch,
are
the
two
100,000.
items. So, we will see everybody then. We need a motion to adjourn.
I think the meeting starts at 10 o'clock.
Hmm?
The meeting starts at 10 o'clock. It's
10
yeah.
o'clock on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting today. Oh, no, I won't. George. We'll let George do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Move to.
I think
you sure you want to do this, George?
I think we can drag it out another hour or two.
Don't do anything rash.
Move to adjourn.
I think we're all going to second.
1, 2, 3,
Second. We're all seconding. Thank you, Grassroots.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Have a good weekend, guys. Stay safe.
All opposed, say nay.
See y'all.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rich.
Bye.
Terry, Amy.
All right.
Goodbye, Siri.